Yes.
Okay. Is he going to be on the call then, Jimmy? Is he going to be in the Zoom?
I'm trying to get him on because we have a call with a big property manager on an asset and that at 11:30 that I'm trying to see if he jumps on.
Okay.
How long is this gonna run?
We'll probably try to keep it an hour, and if you got to jump off before or whatnot, it's just going to depend on some of the questions that come in.
Okay. I'm sorry, I broke up there a little bit. I couldn't hear Matt. Sorry about that.
Probably try to keep it to about an hour.
An hour? Okay. Let me see if he can jump on. If not.
Yeah, I got a big project I get down and get on the roof too.
Right.
Exactly.
To
work too.
Did you guys see the press conference when they were saying that the contractors and PAs and blah 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 will be out here like locusts?
Yeah. I heard about that through.
Yeah,
that's Jimmy Petronas, our CFO.
I want to have an ad that runs that has just a list of all the bad faith jury verdicts against all the insurance companies, just as a reminder.
Yeah. No, you'll see all the State Farm and Allstate and all the insurance commercials coming about, and Anna, if you want to go ahead and start letting people in. There's about 23 people waiting right now to get in, but we're recording, guys, and so just be mindful of that, of course. And I will be probably putting this on a YouTube link and putting it out there. And I know everybody on this call.
I'm going to try to get the attorney on. Excuse me.
Okay, great, Jimmy. We'll just make sure that well, I got my counsel here anyway, so he can review everything before I go posting. Anna, if you just want to make sure everybody is muted that comes in, they should be muted upon coming in. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. But if you want to, once we kind of let everybody in, or you let everybody in, then I'll kind of let people know how they can ask questions once we get to that point.
Okay, that sounds good.
So we're at 11:03. I'll probably go, let's see. Is everybody in that was in the waiting room? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
We'll wait 2 minutes and then we will, because everybody keeps jumping in, and then we'll get going. And Anna, you can just keep letting them in as they come, if that makes sense. All right. Oh, Richie's on. Hey, Richie, how you doing, buddy? Great. Rich, we'll probably ask for your expertise on some of the Senate bill stuff. I know we have some good, a couple good PAs on here. Stellar attorney, Kelly Corcoran, and I think there's going to be some other legal counsel as well. So, but I know you're a whiz kid with this bill here and the new laws in Florida. So I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks, pal. All right, so let's kick it off. For everybody that's on here, we're having this conference today. Post Hurricane Ian, everything has kind of blown in, blown through, and blown off, and is circling back out there. It looks like it's going to come back in and head in towards South Carolina. So we're praying for those folks and for everybody down in Southwest Florida. It was a wicked hurricane, and although this is all of our industry and our business, of course, we all hate to see the destruction and damage down there, and especially in a place that is near and dear to my heart in Naples. So with that being said, there's a lot of anticipation and anxiousness by contractors, by PAs, by attorneys, by everybody in this insurance restoration industry to come down and or that are here already to respond and to help the recovery efforts, and of course the restoration efforts, of which we all feed our families with. And so we want to do it the right way, and we want to make sure that that we're all within the guidelines and the rules of the state, and we prepare properly as contractors to be able to handle such efforts. I have been in the industry for 22 years. This is not new to me, but it is a little bit different capacity in the sense of having the co-op here and the contractors affiliate team. And so I'm hosting this in light of such. Happy to answer any questions, and the way in which I do will be just the opinions that I have and the things that work for me. I have with me Kelly Corcoran, who is from Ball Janik legal team, and Kelly is my chief counsel on our insurance claim recovery efforts and processes. A few of the other,
Right.
Sorry. Oh, Hannah, can we just make sure everybody's muted?
Yeah,
Thank you. And then,
Yeah, I'm muting as we go.
thank you. So there's a few other people I'd like to mention on the call. Richie Kidwell from Air Quality. And Richie is not just on the contracting side and the air quality side of these claims that we do, but has fought vehemently for us contractors and clients, really, in some of the new legislation. And in light of that, we have some great folks on here who understand that legislation and can help in some of the questions about the new legislation in Florida and how the difference is going to be from this hurricane versus past hurricanes. If some of you guys have worked, was it Michael in Panama City, or Irma, or Matthew before that? There's some different rules, and there's a different playground that we're in here now. And I just want everybody to be mindful of that. So I'm going to open it up kind of right away to, why don't I open it up to you, Kelly, if you want to, if you're okay, just kind of starting us off about kind of the highlights of kind of the new bills that are out there. And we'll just highlight that real quick, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for everybody for joining us. Really, the highlights, I think, of the recent legislation from earlier this year. I think the three key points for in general, but specifically to contractors, are going to be as far as how they now redefine prohibitive advertisements, what you can and cannot put in writing, and what disclaimers and notices you must have in there. The revisions regarding assignment of benefits. And then last is the revision as to the 25% rule and how that plays with regards to roof claims. So to me, those are the three kind of the highlighted points. And I know, Richie, we haven't met, but been reading over the last year on how you have you fight against what they try to do to prohibit. So I'd like to hear, if you wouldn't mind, kind of your thoughts and what the highlights would be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thanks. Great to meet you as well. I hear about your firm all the time. Great firm. Thank you for being on here. And so, yeah, nice to virtually meet you. So I've been kind of on the forefront on this. I'm the president of the Restoration Association of Florida. I got involved with legislation in 2014 as it started to change the AOB in Florida. I just started using it, and I'm like, fuck, what happened? And now all of a sudden you got Senator Hugel over there trying to kill the bills in 2015, 16. So we got together with a bunch of great lobbyists, formed an association, and been very strong in there. The 3-year rule of making a claim after a hurricane was very highly contested the past couple of years. I luckily, with our team, were able to get them to allow us for 2 years. They wanted 1 year to report a storm, any storm, and then a total of 2 years. And our team were successfully able to stop them there and say, no, we need 2 years to report and 3 years for supplemental. So that was huge that we've done over the past couple of years. We're huge in the 2019 AOB law change. We're able to keep AOBs around under certain prevailing party, those types of things. We've been very successful on trying to keep it even for independent contractors in the state of Florida. A lot of my guys right now are heading down to South Florida or Southwest Florida armed with updated AOBs. Like I told people, AOB is not dead. It's different. right? It's different. And so we know I got fucked in the fourth DCA on an appeal on whether or not the per unit cost estimate has to be inside of, contained within the AOB or signed on the same day as the AOB is signed. So that's one thing that we need to take from this, is that AOB is fine. Use it in a way that you're going to get your emergency service first, and you have your per unit cost estimate on the back page. So if you need an email address, I will send you copies of contracts that you can run it by your attorney. I'm not an attorney, we're an association group, but we've started 2 contracts. One is for a roofer that has like blue tarp, white tarp, you know, different things on there that you would need a per unit cost estimate inside the AOB. And then we also have one for mitigation, restoration, emergency services, dry outs, fans, those types of things. Per unit cost estimate baked into your contract is the best way to go. Right now, it's easy. You know, you have them sign the front page, and the back page, you go ahead and check off the things that you're going to be providing right now. And that's going to be, you know, maybe emergency tarp and those types of things are capped out at 3,000 or 1% of coverage A. Now, if you're looking up and it's not raining, it's not a fucking emergency, you are not capped under an emergency. White tarps are not capped. Take it literally, take a picture of the sky. You think I'm dumb right now, but take a picture of the sky and note on there that it is not raining today, because urgent service is something that if not done right away, more harm will come to that property. If it's in the middle of a rainstorm and you're tarping, or middle of a leak and you're drying out, extracting, you're capped on day one for $3,000 for that urgent service. After that, the cap is no longer there. You go back the next day and you continue services at that time. Sign an AOB keeps you in charge of your invoice. It allows you to make supplemental changes, and you make sure you hit the insured and the insurer at the same time for any supplementals. Biggest things you want to learn. I've got a 2-page contract. Email us at info@raflorida.org, and I'll send you the contracts in a Word doc form, and you change it up. So info@raflorida.org. I'll send you these contracts, and make sure that it has those provisions in there that you cannot go after a homeowner. You hold them harmless. You're not allowed to come after their credit in exchange for an assignment of benefit. So there are things that has to be contained in the AOB, as well as your per unit cost estimate. You know, how much is a fan per day? $75 at $135. It doesn't matter what your prices are, but also know that there are currently no attorney's fees for any AOB signed after May 26th. Okay. So what I'm telling my restorers to do, your cost of a collection just got 30% higher. So that means you're going to call Kelly and say, hey, I need you to collect my invoice for me. And they're going to say, okay, well, there's no prevailing party attorney's fees, so I'm going to take 30%. Okay, great. I adjusted that in my invoices already. There's nothing from stopping us from charging 15 and 15, right? Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to charge 10 and 10. No, charge 15 and 15 because your price of collection just got higher. Now, the other thing you can do is inside of your line items, add 20% margin on each and every line item, and then add your 15 and 15 on the end. Reason why are your prices higher? Well, why my collections are a lot higher than they are right now, because I have no prevailing party attorney's fees. Therefore, my price just went up. My prices as an air quality company and an engineering firm just went up as well. So the reason why is so I can have meat on the bone for the attorney to take some and not. I do have that in lawsuit right now. We're hoping to have our hearing soon. I had a little stumble in the road with my challenge against Senate Bill 2D for the fees for prevailing party for AOBs. That's why I said it's not dead. It's just different, right? So any invoice over 15,000, attorneys are going to take it. Make sure you have a good enough amount on that invoice so you can send it to an attorney. They collect their money, they take some, everybody wins. Those are the biggest takeaways that I want you guys to have from this. AOB is a very good tool. And remember, they didn't take our rights away from initiating a fee. We can initiate and manage under an AOB. We cannot handle and we cannot negotiate, right? So just remember that we can initiate an AOB claim on an AOB. They sign your AOB, you the contractor can call, just like the good old days. Call in and get the claim started. Who are you? I'm the assignee of Mark Fisher, or whatever his name is. I remember Mark Fisher back in the day. And you can just be like, I am the assignee for them. I just got the contract signed. I'm the contractor. I need a claim number. All right, what's the claim for? Wind, this and that, Hurricane Ian, blah, blah, blah. So remember, you can initiate a claim. You can manage a claim as an AOB holder. You cannot handle or you cannot negotiate the outcome of a claim. What my invoice is what my invoice. You want to negotiate it, you're going to have to negotiate with Kelly because he's a licensed attorney in the state of Florida or a licensed public adjuster. Only PAs and attorneys can settle or negotiate the outcome of a claim. An AOB holder can initiate and you can manage the claim. All right. So those are the things that I want you to make sure you take away. If you need a copy of a contract, info@raflorida.org. It's just a sample AOB in a Word doc form. You change it up, put your company logo on it, send it to your attorney, make sure it's good, and send it out. But at least it'll get you started. So outside of that, those are the biggest takeaways. We are challenging the fees. We hope to get the fees reversed this year. We had a small motion to dismiss hearing in Senate Bill 2D because the judge was drinking the governor's Kool-Aid. I love my governor. I hate him for insurance though. I had a suit against the OIR a month before. They can try to be gangster. I'm fucking gangster. So we took our lawsuit for the OIR against American Integrity, who decided to put in their policies that all dispute resolutions must end in binding arbitration. Well, I filed suit against that, and then I changed it once I lost in the Senate Bill 2D on a motion to dismiss. I amended my complaint to include the Senate Bill 2D arguments prevailing party for attorney's fees. My hearing will be in the next 2 months. So let's all hope that I get my attorney's fees back in the state of Florida and we're keeping everything the way it goes. But in the meantime, our cost of collections went up by 30%. Would that be good, Kelly? You think you have invoices, $50, $60, $100,000, $300,000. We come to you with an AOB. Are you looking at a 30%? I think most attorneys are discussing 10% pre-suit, 30% after suit, and you can still get cost. So that's how I like to make sure you guys are ready for it. So you can get paid 100% of your invoice. Each line item should be bumped up 20% on your Xactimate line items. And then your overhead and profit should be 15 and 15. That's on an AOB with no prevailing party attorney's fees right now. So those are the things that I would want you to take away from this. And again, you can initiate a claim and you can manage a claim as an AOB holder. Get it signed. You can call in, and you can call in within, you need 3 days from the date of signature to turn that AOB in. So your office needs to be fast. I have 2 people, their whole life duty is to make sure all the things are right on the contract, submit to the insurance companies within 3 days. I'm telling you, it's the best money I've ever spent on employees, and they'll make sure you get paid all 100% of what you get. Try to do it on tablets. Try to do it on DocuSign. The other thing is we're doing as well is you sign the AOB, and then you have a letter of protection that they sign separately. You put in your back pocket. Your LOP is a letter of protection in case the homeowner decides to go to suit. And then your case maybe isn't doing that well. You shift it over to that attorney handling the first party case for the homeowner, and you rescind your AOB rights back to the homeowner. You do not turn that LOP into the home to the insurance company. Only the AOB, the LOP, the letter of protection goes in your back pocket in case the insured hires an attorney on their own. All right, so those are the biggest takeaways I would say for AOB in Florida. So questions, comments, concerns?
So it looks like Tom Sedgwick has a question. I'll go ahead and unmute him so that he can ask.
Sure. Hey, Tom.
Hey guys, question. So in Colorado, obviously different world than Florida, we're using a conditional assignment of insurance proceeds. It's only related to the work that we're performing. The scope that we aren't performing isn't part of that. Is this all under the same blanket? Is that basically essentially the same terminology, AOB versus conditional AOIP?
Very similar, yes. It does state in the AOB for Florida rules that you have to be specific. Now, their AOC still is alive in Florida. You can take a full assignment of claim. It has to be listed in your assignment. Outside of that, I use we can't use the word partial, but I put in my exactly what I do. If I'm a mitigation contractor, I'm saying I'm going to be providing mitigation services. If I'm a roofer, I'm providing roofing services, and you would put that in your AOB. That's why I have 2 AOBs, one for roofing and one for emergency mitigation and contractors. So usually they want you to be specific. However, you can do a blanket assignment of claim still in Florida. You just have to list it.
Great. Kelly, you got anything to add to that? Is there anything additional with that as far as if somebody wants to take on, you know, a global claim versus just a certain portion of it and the benefits of just doing the roof or just doing the mitt?
No, really, I think Richie hit it. It just has to be itemized per unit cost. I mean, you have to have it in there. You can't just take a blanket assignment like you could years ago. And you got to be specific and just follow the statute. It's 627-7152. There's certain items and notices you have to have in there that have to be in word for word. So just follow it, use it as a checklist if you're not going to use the form Richie's providing.
Yeah, I think that's something crucial to talk about too, right, Kelly, is what we have there. It's not just making sure these forms are signed correctly. There's thresholds and milestones that have to be met X amount of days, you know, that as soon as you get that signed, right, that time starts clicking, right? It starts ticking. And if you're not following them, right, if you're just going out there and signing up these AOBs and signing up these AOBs, because we're storm crazy right now, and those days fall off, you're now not within procedural guidelines, correct?
That's correct. Like Richie said, 3 business days.
And
3
Richie,
days to submit, and you hit the nail on the head there, Matt. We do have to worry about services being performed or services that are going to be performed that has a ticker in there for 30 days, if I remember correctly. And Matt, you were just about to say that, where you talk about in your contract, you have to mention though, what do they say? A good amount of work, you have hit your threshold of supplying, you know, work up to supplying them the estimate. Significant work has been performed when estimate has been submitted to insurance company and homeowner. So that needs to be in your contract, because it says you have 30 days. The homeowner can cancel within the first 14 days. And then after that, they can't cancel. But then it says if significant work has not been performed within 30 days, then they can also cancel. So you just have a small in there, make sure your estimates are done within 30 days and state that in your contract. Significant work has been performed when all inspections and estimates have been provided to homeowner and insurance company.
and let me get your take on this, Kelly and Richie, or if anybody else has something to add, raise your hand to it. But when we're submitting the prices, right, the unit prices, do you guys recommend just a pay scale price or an actual, because if you don't have work that's been done yet, but that is going to be part of the claim, do you tie that in with a pay scale? Like, you know, hey, my roofing is X amount per hour or X amount per square, or I paint at X amount per square foot. It can't be just an, you know, if incurred, you know, the old contingency language that we use. So, but what are your recommendations as far as what if, you know, what if we don't know what we don't know, right? What if there's going to be underlying, or you just deal with that in supplement later and just keep tacking it in the claim and sending it in?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yep. So what you have to have in there is per unit cost estimate of services to be performed. So it's as simple as having, I charge $75 a day for a fan. I charge $135 for a DU, so much for you know, different types of equipment. And then it always says on there, this is a good faith estimate in the contract, right? Final invoices may differ from this good faith estimate, and the insurer and insured will be updated as supplements occur. So that's how you do it. At first, you just have that price list on the back and you check things off. And I like to add it up in the bottom right on the back page of the AOB. Now, outside of that, some people saying I'm doing estimates on the spot. You know, we have these, you know, this awesome software that I can do it right there. Great. Make a line item for the homeowner to sign it and make sure that date is the exact same date as the AOB. It can be 2 different documents. The homeowner, this is our price sheet. It could be a full page separate price sheet and say, this is what I'm going to do today, and these are the services we are going to perform. I charge $1,200 a square foot, or $1,200 a foot for roof. I charge this much linear foot on gutters, this and that, and then they sign it. That gets you around the per unit cost estimate that was given to the homeowner on day 1.
Gotcha.
I got Rich, just to incorporate something in regard to the language of AOB and AOC. Being that storms not only have the reconstruction aspect, you have to know to at least that, let's say if it's a commercial property, you're going to have other issues as business interruption. You're also going to have other items as boiler room machinery equipment, and just get in contact with either that person that specializes or that attorney, or at least make delineated that before you settle that file, that those items haven't been incorporated in your estimate. So that way you have an out to protect yourself for those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
And also additional loss of income, ALE, rent expense. And when you go on the residential aspect, then you're going to have personal properties. You're going to have a whole other slew that obviously the contractor doesn't want to get involved in, because that's the small item. But also the same thing applies on commercials. You have a lot of, let's say, for example, I've had scenarios that I've done a storm work on in combination with another PA, that it was a linen company. The linen company had the entire recon of the entire building, but then they had $1 million boiler machinery equipment. And then that boiler machinery equipment needed to be stored offshore, or it meet at another site so the business could continue and continue its operation. So just know that when you're going to do the reconstruction, there's some items that you might not want to touch. So that way, at least the insured gets another way out. And the attorney in the group might also incorporate a couple of answers with different sections of coverages that are not part of reconstruction, but are also very, very important on a claim.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You know, when you take an AOC as a general contractor, you can do up to those points and estimate everything up and through ALE, those different types of expenses that John was saying. So those are the perks of having a public adjuster or an attorney involved for the insured on large loss claims. So they can get every benefit out of that, and you get your benefit for the work and services you provide as a contractor. So that's good stuff, John.
If you guys, Anna,
It looks like,
do you want to explain how these guys can ask questions?
yeah. So if you're using a desktop, down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see reactions. There's a little arrow. You can click that and it'll say raise hand or lower hand. And so if you raise hand, it'll show me at the top of your screen that you want to ask a question. So like right now, Tom Sedgwick has his hand raised. So he would like to ask a question. It'll put you down at the top. I will check in to unmute you, and then you can ask your question.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, you want to go ahead and unmute? I see Tom, just 1 second, but I see Brick has a question. If you want to go ahead and take that, Anna.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. So one of my questions is like, I know in the past you had mentioned how you used like Epdm to protect a roof. Is there any liability risk of tarping a tile roof with Epdm and, you know, self-adhered Epdm, but since we're damaging tiles, you like with the Epdm or with the glue, is there anything we can get in trouble for because we're trying to do a temporary tarp, but yet while doing the temporary tarp, we're actually damaging more tiles per se?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question, and I've been in that position. Yes, you can, in the mitigation effort, you can definitely put yourself smack dab in the middle of the finger pointing that's undoubtedly going to go on in the claim process. However, the best thing that you can do, or that I've done in the past, is to make sure that you, number one, don't try to spoil any of the evidence of the claim, right? So we try to preserve all the evidence of the claim. And in doing so, document. So if there is efforts that need to be taken that are a little bit more invasive than typical, right? Then make sure that you document the damage ahead of time, typically having a third party there to document with you, whether that be an engineer, an architect who you hire, a public adjuster, have your attorneys there, whoever you want. Document the shit out of it if you can, and if time allows. Try to be as least invasive as you can, but make that mitigation effort last as long as you can, because it has been my experience that if you go out and put a $400,000 envelope on a building that's supposed to keep you dry until you're ready to rebuild, if it starts failing, they're not going to pay you $400,000 multiple times. I mean, Kelly's going to argue for me over and over and over to get me paid. But in the end, it's going to be one of those things where he's going to call and say, hey, Matt, listen, we got the claim where it needs to be and everything's good, but they're digging their heels in here on the tarping, you know, and on what you guys did. And yeah, you kept it dry, but you know, they're not going to pay you for all the repairs and all the remit. And so that number can get really high. The other thing is if you go out there and you try a mitigation effort that isn't longstanding and that doesn't hold up, they're most likely going to start shifting blame on that. Some of that is because you increase the damages, that your efforts failed and it caused further damage. And typically along that process, they're going to start trying to subrogate back to your insurance carrier or you, and thus it gets really messy. They're just trying to usually, kind of brace some of their costs in that effort. That's my take on it. On the contractor side, I have been there. That's a really good question. Kelly, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but that's been my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it just really comes down on the front end, like you said in the very beginning, Matt. It's just document the condition of the property before you go through those services, so that you can at least show exactly what was, the condition prior to, and then if there is any damage during those temporary repairs, or if you're going forward with wrapping a roof. You can at least point to just discrete areas where it may have been damaged, and that would potentially limit the liability just to those areas, or at least limit to what the fight will be with regards to those areas.
I think a good question, I think a good question too that's come up quite a bit, and that guys aren't quite sure of down here is the deductibles, the insurance deductibles, right? I mean, that's something that we deal with down here in Florida on named perils that is totally different than most hailstorms. Other than Texas, they have some laws there. What are your guys' thoughts on that, on the insurance deductible side? I mean, what are the laws and the restrictions and the regulations that are here in Florida that pertain to insurance deductibles, whether that be waiving of them or whatnot?
I'll just jump in first. It kind of goes back to the recent legislation regarding prohibited advertisements, just to kind of link the two together, in the sense that if you have any written communications with regards to encouraging making a claim or any type of advertisement, that's one of the three notices that must be provided. And specifically, and I'll read it to you, it is insurance fraud punishable by third-degree felony for a contractor to pay or waive an insurance deductible. So it's something that they're cracking down on, and it's part of the recent legislation that that's something you have to have in your communications.
And Kelly, we touched on this, I know, with one of our members of our co-op, who's headquartered out of Tennessee, but he has operations in Florida as well. When we had that conversation with him about the specific language of going and meeting with a client and in any way inducing a claim. Can you talk about some of that? Remember, we kept reading that one line where it was like, this just hangs you up. This just hangs you up. You can't, I know you're trying to, call it an orange, but it's really an apple over here, right? Like this language kind of keeps us from that.
Yeah, I don't remember that specific language, but it really comes down to, assessing what it is, and then just limiting your communications as far as, now within the new statute. Let me take a quick look if I can see exactly what it was that you're referring to.
Yeah, it was something that there was one line that and maybe Richie knows it, I'm not sure, or Scott Friedson, maybe you know it. One of these lines that was kind of specific to that, any contractor, or I didn't even say contractor, I think it said anyone that that specifically points at or induces a claim, some language like that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. I mean, I filed suit against that. They're not pressing anything in Florida for giving referral fees to contractors. I got that under lock, which is good. So because I give referral fee, everybody gives referral fees. It's just the way it is. And the state of Florida was trying to make it illegal $10,000 fine and a 3rd-degree felony. So I have an email from Mr. Axelrod, which is the general counsel for DBPR, says we will not be processing any of this or prosecuting anyone until the outcome of the litigation has been complete. I filed suit against Senate Bill 76 a year and a half ago, which had that weird language in it because it's not fair, it's not constitutional, so they will not be giving that. So that's fine. Now, what you have to do is they did Senate Bill 2D, they took that other stuff out because it was unconstitutional, and they added in these waivers. So public adjusters and roofers who are canvassing must have 3 things in their communications that state that there are waivers, that they cannot waive deductibles, and that they will have to pay the deductible. There's nothing wrong or illegal in telling the homeowner that they will pay the deductible at the end, but you tell them that you cannot waive a deductible. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to waive a deductible at all. Oh, your neighbor said that they'll do it. That's great. That's great. Go talk to them or whatever, Billy Bob down the road. That's fine. I'm not waiving a deductible, but I'm telling you, you don't have to pay your deductible to the end. That's not illegal. Now, state of Florida is trying to say on their law that they won't pay RCV until you show or prove to the insurance company that they have either paid their deductible or in a payment process plan with you on the deductible. I shit you not, it's fucking stupid. They still owe you ACV off the bat. You sign an AOB today and you turn in your estimate for the roof, they owe you for ACV right now. As soon as they show, I doubt they're going to be doing this. We haven't had any insurance companies get smart enough to say, hey, the new law says you have to show me that the homeowners pay their deductible before we release RCV, but just know that that might be a thing. So just heads up for that.
Yeah, that's good. Anna, can you unmute Tom? He's got a couple good questions. I'd like to get him. He's chatted him in here, but I would like to get him to ask him because they're good questions.
Yeah, I'll
go ahead.
unmute him. And then there's somebody else that they don't have the option to raise or lower hand. It's John Mercedes. So after Tom, he does have a question.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So this is circling back a little bit, maybe about 10 minutes or so. The first question, trying to expand on when you guys were discussing the substantial significant work requirement for a contract to be solidified. What exactly does that constitute? Does that mean physically doing repairs or construction on the project, or can that be more on the administrative preparation side of estimating, scoping, administrative reviews? Can you expand on that a little bit? Or is that still a gray area and they're trying to figure it out?
Well, it is kind of gray area, but as long as you have it baked in your contract, what significant work performed means, it could be pulling a permit. It could be, if you define it, you should be okay. Kelly can clean this up. Because it is a gray area, you can simply say significant work completed means contractor has finalized all inspections and have submitted all estimates to the insurance company. You can say that's your definition of significant work. So some people,
specific date, like within 30 days, I think it was, you have to
30 days. 30 days, or they could cancel the contract. So the first 14 days, the homeowner can cancel the contract, and you have to let them know that any services performed up to that 14 days, the homeowner has to pay for if they cancel your contract. So, make sure, and that way the homeowner be like, I'm not going to cancel, screw that. Be like, all right, cool. Because that's what the law says. After 14 days, between 14 days and 30, significant work has to be performed. And that could be, as long as it's in there, all inspections, estimates performed and supplied to the insured. That could be it. I don't know if you have any more to add, Kelly.
If you perform all of that by day 14, then the 30 days essentially don't matter at that point.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
All right, Alex, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so you can ask your question.
That's not an issue unless there's a material problem, right?
No, we just say that.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon. I've got a question on, I'm on the mitigation side. The repairs is not my game. I'm on the mitigation side, like I said. On a fuel consumption chart, we're using the national fuel consumption chart on that. And you're talking about taking that, Richie, and are we still able to use that 15 and 15 and then back into the 10 on that diesel that we're running? Or how would you look at that for powering up equipment in billing that?
That kind of stuff may be reimbursement on as expended. So I believe those travel fees have to be incurred. Not sure if you're able to add it onto there unless it's an estimate. And Kelly, you may want to dive into that, but I think if you've already incurred those expenses, then you submit them as they are. And then the estimated amounts can be added you can add your additional percentage to it.
I just want to make sure, not driving to and back and forth the job. I'm talking about generators that are on site running, powering the equipment, not fueling to get down there. Just want to make sure I was clear on that.
Right. Well, you can actually get travel down there as well, paid for by insurance companies as well. So you can actually add that to and from and fuel and expenses as they're expended. Now, when you're going to be supplying an estimate for a job and you're going to put these what you think is going to cost in there, diesel and all that stuff, that's where you're going to add your additional percentages in the line items for Xactimate. So
Thank you.
Does that help, Alex? Okay, good deal. Alex Gearhart had asked, because some of these are just coming through chat for everybody. He said, I'm fairly sure I heard Richie say he had a document that we can pay for referrals. I think, offering, clients a referral money, I guess, is what we're talking about here. Can he share that with the group? I guess I'd first say, Richie, did he hear that right? Do you have a document that you pay for referrals, and if you do, I guess, would you share it with the group?
Yeah. Contractor to contractor, it's fine. Contractor to homeowner could be seen as or looked at or visualized as something of value to the homeowner in exchange for that. So that is illegal. That's a no-no. I can't get you out of jail for that. But I could get you out of jail or out of any trouble if you were to give a contractor a referral fee and somebody were to try to run that up. Yeah, you can't give anything of value to a homeowner because it could be looked at as a waiver of deductible, and that is a bad no-no.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking about deductibles earlier, and I want to kind of get back to that just briefly, when you were saying, yeah, you can, that's not an issue. The deductible has to be paid. There's no waiving of deductibles, and you can't tell clients like, yeah, I'll just cover it, or we'll take it off the other costs, whatever. They do have a responsibility and an obligation that's strictly enforced in Florida to pay their deductible. They got to pay their way on that. Is that correct? Yeah, both of these legal guys are going, yeah.
Yes, that's correct. There's no waiver of deductible. We can't offer anything of value for a roof inspection that turns into, this types of things. Now, if a neighbor walks out and says, hey, there's a house down there or a whole neighborhood down there to go to, and you give them $500 for that lead, that's cool. But the actual insured cannot pay that contractor, or that contractor cannot give them anything of value because it could be looked at as a waiver of deductible.
And I think it's crucial too for some of the folks who haven't worked Florida to be aware the deductibles down here typically, are 1 to 3% on hurricane claims. Sometimes that can be higher. I've seen 5%. Every now and then you'll find somebody who's got like an actual declared deductible, like $5,000 or something. That's rare. But to give you guys an idea, for those of you guys who are roofers or whatnot, if the average home is, $500,000 and it's a 2% deductible, right? We can all do the math. They're gonna have, $10,000 on that real quick. So just be aware, if that roof is going to be 30 grand or 20 grand, they're going to have a much bigger responsibility. The client will, right? And is their responsibility, but you guys, it's your responsibility for your collections. So just keep that in mind, that to make sure that they're funded. And it's always not a bad idea to have some financing in place for your business for such, to make sure that you guys have that relationship established with the client when you go into the claim, and that it's clearly and conspicuously stated in your contracts that is their responsibility, that they're going to have to cover those costs and that they're aware of it. That can. Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
I would just say that I would begin with the end in mind. No matter what you're doing, make sure your paper trail is clean, and imagine that a defense attorney is looking over the shoulder of any adjuster or any claims that you're working on. when it comes to referrals or just the paper trail of assignment of benefits, whatever it is, because the carriers are in positions where the environment is not real good. And we all knew this before the hurricanes hit. And now that the hurricane is major catastrophic event is transpired, they're going to look for every reason that they can to underpay, delay, and hurt credibility of whether it's PAs, contractors, mitigation companies, whatever it is. So I'm really glad that Matt put this together, and make sure you align yourselves with people who have good business practices, that are ethical, have good integrity, have good credibility behind them, because that's going to be really, really key in all of this. Just, it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. Something is going to go down. Legal is going to get involved. Defense attorneys are going to be looking for reasons to poke holes in anything and everything that contractors and PAs are doing in that market. So that's my high level advice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think something to be mindful for you contractors that are coming down here is a couple of things. And I know we talked about this in one of the other Zoom conferences I did the other night, but it is the time frame of claims. And I know all these gentlemen on here know this as good as I do. But from a contractor side and from a cash flow side, where you're having to not just pay your bills and keep your office lights on and your logistics covered, but to actually produce and to build and to pay employees on the sites and to get people buttoned up. Our cash flow issue with a delayed claim can really hurt. And so the claims down here, so everybody's aware, there will be quick money made quick and all that, and the whole scenario, fast money goes fast, happens in Florida more than anywhere. But if you're in it to do the claims and you're in it to start from cradle to grave and to get these big projects and to do a lot of them, you have to be very, very mindful of the time that it takes to actually settle the claim. Is, I would say, 4 to 6 times longer than anywhere else in the country, at least on the entire build back side. And not just that, but to actually produce it right now, before we even started looking at this hurricane, before it even had a name, we were 25 plus weeks out on most tile. Okay. And everybody knows the issues going on around the country with ISO shortages and mechanical fastener shortages and all that stuff. That's still very real. And so if we're looking at 6 months to even get tile, or we're looking at 6 to 8 months to get fasteners or ISO or taper or whatever else, you have to be very mindful that your cash flow has to be reserved properly, and that you need to be preparing for a much, much longer turn on your money. So you can go out and you can blue tarp until you're, I should say, blue in the face, right? And make quick cash. When you start settling in on these claims, you need to be doing it in a methodical manner. And if you're coming down here and you've never worked before, you need to be aligned with somebody who knows what they're doing, has done it before, and has seen the entire life cycle of a hurricane. Not just that they came down for a year after Irma, or I worked Hurricane Charlie, or I went to Katrina. This is a different landscape. It is a different storm, and it is much, much different procedurally to operate in these conditions down here, which is why we have all these experts on this call. If you guys go work a hailstorm in Chicago, you're not going to have this powwow and tribe of people that are made and built to really work in these conditions. And that's why I've asked some of these guys to come on here today, and I appreciate that. So just be very mindful. Your buck has to go a lot further down here, and you got to be, you have to be well reserved and be prepared for that in this market. Richie posted this in the chat. I think everybody can see it. Is an email address if you want the copy of the updated AOB in Florida. It is a good AOB. It is legit. I have used it myself. I trust Richie not only in his expertise on this subject, but I trust him on my projects. I put him on my projects. He's awesome at what he does. info@raflorida.org is his email address to get that. Is there anybody else with any more questions at all on any of the subjects that we talked about today?
Yeah, I think John Mercedes still had a
Oh,
question.
yeah, okay, chime John in. Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a couple
Hi,
too.
I wanted to contribute for the restoration guys. When you're communicating and doing a temporary tarp or MDF, or you're doing a shrink wrap on a property, remember that when you're doing that, always ask the question with another option. Let's say if an adjuster says, just tarp it. No. You have to say, dear adjuster, the option that you have suggested will expire its lifespan at X amount of time. A better option is such and such. Why? Is because a claim is going to take 6 to 9 months. That's big reality. This isn't going to be a wham bam, you're going to get paid. Why that you always have to think down the line is because when that emergency the emergency thing that you've done on the property to protect it fails, the insurance company is going to point their finger at you. But if you properly communicate to the insurance company that you've given them options on what is better and which one is not, hopefully it'll protect yourself. And like Matt said, they won't come back after your policy because obviously they want to pinpoint somebody else at because maybe the protection failed down the line. So always when you're going to communicate and somebody, some of the insurance carriers is going to say, just do X, give them the options and tell them the reason why, and give them the expertise to say, I suggest that we should do this. If he says otherwise, great. That's going to be on him if something happens down the line to protect you guys as contractors, restoration crews.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that too, John, is when you're giving them those options, throw in the price per square foot of what those options are, right? So if they say, nope, just go ahead and tarp it up, just say, okay, I'm just confirming you want the blue tarp this. We could also shrink wrap it, or I could also pull tiles and fix the underlayment temporarily. Here's the price for each. Would you still like me to go ahead and blue tarp it or whatever it is, right? That way, if they say, yeah, you not only have their kind of blessing on it, but they were aware of the price ahead of time, so they can't come back after and say, well, that price is crazy. I would have never said for you to do it then, because we've run into that too, especially as you get into some of these little more expensive mitigation efforts, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Looks like Tom and Brick both have a question, so we'll run with both of those guys, and then we might be wrapping up here pretty soon.
Okay, I'll go ahead and unmute Tom.
Hey guys, so 2 more questions. Looping back again, when we need to provide specific pricing initially in the beginning for services performed, we have a standard commercial rate sheet for the industry that we're in. As long as that covers either hourly or things that we'll be doing, is that something we can just add as an addendum to the AOB?
Now that's not bad. I've been kicked out of court for having a menu instead of a per unit cost estimate. So an estimate has a total on the bottom of that. That's the only difference. As long as you present the rate sheet and select the couple and then add them up and then have the homeowner or client sign it, you're going to be in good shape. So just by presenting a price sheet may not be good enough, because a court may say, well, no, you gave them a menu. You didn't give them a per unit cost estimate. So to tally up an estimate, you just simply tally it up. And it's a good faith estimate, could be different from the final invoice. Keep a heads up for supplements. That's how you want to say it.
So preemptively, maybe attach the rate sheet and have it signed, but then within the 14 days, have our estimate together. That way it solidifies a contract. Is that
well,
what
upon signature, you need to tally some stuff up, but whatever you think you're going to do up until you get a more final estimate needs to be tallied up. So if you're there to tarp the roof and do some stuff in the first week, identify that, tally it up, put a total there, and then have them sign it, knowing that supplements will come later and exactimate, and then you have them sign it again once the final one is done, and then you should be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have
Cool.
to have, it's not one and done, Tom. You don't have to have every single thing on there and then you're stuck to that, right? I mean, of course, you still have the ability to supplement, you still have the ability to reassess. There a lot of these claims, right? We're not even close to even being investigated on them, right? We haven't got any of our results. He hasn't done all of his testing yet. So it's always going to be something that's going to be growing. But with the statutes, you got to get as much of it as you can in there, and you have to try to, in good faith, be as detailed as you can. That's reasonable, I think, is the way to kind of look at it, right, Rich? Yeah.
So the second question that I had, and this maybe we could answer this last and have it just be like the send off one. If you want to ask the other guy his question or have him ask his first. I just had a question about licensing from the general contractor's license to a builder's license to a roofing license. My understanding, at least, is that if you aren't the company performing the work, holding the license, then you need to work with someone that has a license, that has all W-2 employees that are working on the job site. A GC or a builder can pull a permit, but they would need to have all W-2 employees performing the roofing work as well. It seemed like a little bit of a gray area to me. I'm not sure exactly how that works. Like, are you just paying through payroll W-2, or does every person that shows up has to be verified?
This is very stringent down in Florida. So if the license that's hanging over the work that's being done, whoever is working on that trade has to be employed under that license, has to be employed under that license. Okay, so if I'm a GC and so I have an unlimited GC and roofing license, right? I have both. And so if I'm going to go and perform, say I'm going to go and do one of these big resorts that we do, and we're going to do, ultimate, and we're going to paint, and we're going to do, water extraction and build back, and we're going to do the roof. If I say, okay, well, I got the permit on the job and I got the project under my GC license, but I'm not going to roof it with my employees, right? Because I'm too covered up and they're all working over here. So I'm going to go hire, ABC roofing company to come in here and do the roof side of it for me. ABC roofing company has to have their own license. It has to be a roofing license. It doesn't have to be a GC license. They have to have their own roofing license. And then everybody under there that's on that roof has to have valid work comp under that's hung under that license, right? And so that's what makes it legal or illegal. So very illegal. If you get guys in there where they're, they got work comp and they have a license. However, they only have 3 people on their cert and they got 30 people out on your roof, you're going to get hung up, right? And that's where the division of work comp comes in, and they start, the DPFR and all that stuff they'll come get you. Does that make sense?
It does. And does the sole proprietor waiver, if you have just a sole proprietor going out and doing work, does that have?
So sole proprietor or owner excluded on work comp is fine for some trades, right? But like, you can't be a sole proprietor and then have people you're paying underneath you that, that are working with you. Like, if you have a license and you're a sole proprietor and you decide to opt out of your work comp, right? You exempt as the owner operator, that's okay. Especially, you'll see this a lot for independent contractors or maybe guys that are sales professionals in this field. They still have to have a work comp cert. They still have to have all those things, but they can opt out. That's fine. If you got a roofer working for you and he opts out, that's fine. His 10 guys underneath him that are banging shingles on cannot. Like, that doesn't obviously give them the freedom, right?
So same thing as here.
Yeah.
Do sales reps or let's say, for example, you and I work together and I bring projects to you. If I'm in a sales capacity or project management capacity, would I have to be W-2, or would that be a partnership underneath your umbrella and I wouldn't need to be?
Well, so if it's for sales, right, you could be W-2, but you still have to have work comp. You still have to be registered with the state and the work comp. But again, you could exempt, right? Because it would just be you and you could choose not to. Now, I would highly recommend, and I've been in this situation. I've had guys that were independent reps and that we required them to have all of their, you know, their corporation, their work comp, their liability, all that stuff. It's like peanuts, really, when you talk about it in that role, in that capacity, that sales professional role, to be able to get work comp, right? Because you're not on roofs all day long, and you're not, you know, I mean, you're not doing anything hazardous. And so you might pay in a little bit of money, but then you're covered if you actually do get hurt. And I had that happen. I had a guy that fell off a roof. He didn't get mangled or anything crazy, but he broke his ankle. And he filed work comp, and he got his bills paid and got kind of covered while he was legitimately recovering. Because he was paying in I think like $35 a month or something. So, you know, if you're not a roofing company, right, work comp's really not that crazy. We just look at it because we are roofing companies and we do it legitimately. But if it's just a sales professional and you get in that category, it's not really anything that hurts, you know?
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. And I guess just to clarify really quick, maybe I missed this. Just using myself and you as an example for right now, if I were to bring commercial projects over, would I have to be paid as W-2?
When you say bring them over, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think they may be talking about the new law that said that, you know, between Senate Bill 76, where they had a lot of these canvassing laws, to where it says that you, like a roofing company and a PA, cannot be the same. You know, that was trying to get rid of the 1099 contractors canvassing and things like that. So for these purposes, and after a post hurricane, I don't know if I would, you know, worry about that. You just want to be worried on the person actually doing the job to have their licenses and general liability insurance up to date. So that's really it.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. That's essentially what I was asking, but doing a bad job at it.
Maybe I was doing a bad job at listening. I was hearing all the stories from my past.
Okay.
Go ahead. We'll take last one, I think, from Brick, and then I think we're good.
Okay, I'm muting him now. Maybe if he's still with us.
Brick, you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you. We got your hand up. You got a
Sorry
question?
about that. Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, my question is just on back to kind of the tile roofs and the tarping. On the majority of residential tile roofs, what is the best option for tarping them? Because tarps are not.
Yeah, they're not. Your best form of mitigation. First off, have you worked with tile? I mean, extensively?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yep, I've been down there in South Florida, right around, you know, Bonita and Naples, all them areas.
Okay.
And shrink wrap's not really working. Tarps aren't working.
Nope.
I love your idea with the rubber. And I heard you on your last Zoom that you said you got something coming, but not quite there yet. What is the best option to help people with tile roofs?
Yeah, you're right. I am working in conjunction with a couple people in developing a product for that exactly. But Ian beat us to the punch. So before, what I would tell you, Brick, is that we know that the waterproofing membrane that actually keeps the house dry is underneath that tile, right? And so although it's difficult, first go to the obvious and conspicuous spots, remove the tile that needs to be removed, and repair the underlayment underneath where you can visibly see that there's damage. Then if you want to, you can put some membrane over top, whether it be you prime the tile and you put some peel and stick over top. However, going and throwing tarps and throwing sandbags and doing all that stuff, and guys, I did it too, it doesn't work. It's going to rip, it's going to tear. Those sandbags are going to fall off the house. They're going to cause more damage. The carriers will look at you for extending the claim versus, protecting the loss. So you really have to go to get right to the source. So if if you can have some type of, whether it's a, some peel and stick or something that's a, like a sticky tarp option, like Rich said, those are great. But really those are going to be temp repairs too, and they're not going to last real long, right, guys? So these are going to, in our weather down here with the winds, with the salt water, with the extensive sun, anything that you're going to, buy that's pretty thin mill, like tarps and shrink wrap and that stuff, it's going to fail. And then you're going to be in the same boat, and you're going to have to remitigate, and you're going to have the cost. So really get to the root if you can. Try to really find where the leak is coming from and make a quick repair, but a repair that's effective on tile roofs. It's not going to look as cool as having all the blue tarps with your company signs in front of it. But in 4 or 6 weeks, when all those companies with the signs that blue tarped roofs, when their houses look like they're like the ghetto, because that's what it looks like. You have these beautiful neighborhoods in Naples, and then all these tarps are shredded and they're blowing all over the places, and the sandbags are hanging off the roof, and you're having to go out time and time again to remitigate. Guys, I've been there. It's not worth it. A lot of times it won't get paid and won't get paid properly, and it'll end up causing you guys to have the fingers pointed at you for where the damage is coming from. Okay, so get to the root of where the water's coming in and repair that underlayment. If you got to throw a sticky tarp up on it quick, go ahead and do it. Or what I've done in the past that has been pretty effective, if you know kind of the general area where it's coming in, wash and prime the crap out of the top of that tile. Grace Ice and Water Shield is probably one of the most effective and the stickiest shit you'll ever find. But just know when you do that, you're walking yourself into them, the carrier wanting to say that, that you caused damage and we can't see what's under there now. And now, you're part of the problem. So again, document the crap out of it while you're up there of what you're finding, what you're seeing, and why that has to be your method of mitigation on those. And then you protect yourself, and then put it in the file in AccuLinks or your CRM, and put it in the file with that, all that stuff, so that when you have to come back to it, you have it. It didn't get lost on your phone, or your daughter deleted it while, playing on your phone that night. Make sure you guys keep good documentation on this stuff so that you can get paid and that you don't get drug into anything that way.
Gotcha. Nope, that sounds definitely a better route than blue tarps.
Yeah, they just don't hold up, guys. I mean, they just don't. They're fine if you go throw battens on them and throw them on shingles, and even then they're going to tear and tatter. But on tile, you're just getting yourself into more problems with that.
Can we put something in writing on our emergency repair for, like, say, shingles, that basically we're only guaranteeing the tarp to last 30 days or something like that? Would that be a good idea to save us from liability of tarps, them trying to make them last 9 months?
I think that your best bet with that is to be as detailed and documented as you can, right? And to give some type of a 30-day emergency only, not meant to last disclaimer. That's fine. I would have your counsel look at it. Ultimately, down here, as soon as you touch somebody's house, you're brought in on it, right? And so is your insurance company. Now, anything you can do to go ahead and try to shield some liability and exposure there is great. And it's always encouraged. But best efforts are always the best thing, right? To do the right, technique, and to make sure that you're documenting the crap out of it. And then, back yourself up with all the language in the world. It's just, then if somebody's looking at that language by that point, Brick, it's two attorneys arguing why they're right and why you're wrong. And that's where you're at.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up. I appreciate everybody kind of coming on. And as always, I'm available to answer any questions or help out. For any of you guys that are wanting to come down and work commercial, I did put this on in the capacity for the contractors affiliate team, and we're happy to bring on some more folks and maybe even companies down here to align with the co-op to help guys secure commercial work. So I'm available to talk about that. If anybody on here wants to make an appointment and chat, I'm happy to do so. we're getting busy. I'm going to get off this call and run down to some of our projects that got messed up last night, some big resorts. And it's that time of the year. Everybody who comes down, love to chat further. And myself, Council Kelly Corcoran is available, to help all you guys out so that you guys make the right moves and have a successful go at it. So thanks so much for jumping on today, everybody.
You, Matt.
Appreciate it, Matt. Great content.
Jacob, you are not 50% vegan. You're like 1% vegan.
Thank you, man.
You know what it means? It means I eat meat, vegetables, and fruit. It means I eat a well-balanced diet.
Perfect.
Back, eat vegetables and other shit.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you later. I appreciate it. Anybody who needs me, just holler. And thanks so much.
All right, brother.